What's up guys, and welcome to the fourth video in my Milsim West What Your Squad Leader Wants You to Know video series. In this video we are talking about leadership. So mostly we'll talk about organizational structure, which you'll see at a Milsim West or any type of military themed rank structure and how the organization works. Kind of why it exists, and roles and responsibilities. We will be primarily focused on the team leader today because squad leader wants you to know how to be a team leader. So with that, we're just going to jump right into our handy dandy Ranger Handbook. Alright, so it should be no surprise that leadership is the first chapter in the Ranger Handbook, and that's kind of because it all starts here. You volunteer for a leadership role at a Milsim West, you become directly responsible for the experience of those players who are under your wing. Um, so you can really make or break the whole event for somebody. If you don't know what's going on, you can't effectively lead. Like, you're not getting these people what they need. Like, you're not getting them, the medic waters. They don't have BBs, because you're not requesting the resupply. You can really mess up somebody's experience at one of these events, because you thought it might just be cool to have the title of a team leader, or you thought it'd be cool because you get to make decisions or be in charge of whatever. That's not the role of the leader, right? You are taking on the responsibility of everybody else's experience, um, and making bad calls, or being negligent in those duties can absolutely be damning to somebody's experience, and they can really, they'll quit on you. I see it all the time. People quit, man. It's hard, right? You're either cold, you're wet, you're hungry, you're tired, and then also you're just not having a good time, bro, because the experience, because your leader isn't, and maybe you don't even realize it's on your leader, but your team leader or your squad leader isn't making sure that you've got what you need. A lot of people just bounce at that point, and then you don't have a team, and that's not a good, that's ruins your experience as the team leader. So, I say all that just to say that, when you sign up for Milsim West, if you're considering a leadership role, if you don't know what's going on, you probably shouldn't volunteer for a leadership role. But that's what this video is for, is to tell you what is going on. If you've watched the previous 3 videos and you watch this video, you'll actually have a pretty decent understanding, of how this is going to roll out. And maybe after, go do 1 or 2, right? Go at least get some experience at a Milsim West under your belt if you've never had military experience before you volunteer for a one of these leadership positions, just to make sure that you really want it, or some other, maybe not even Milsim West, but some other sort of event. So anywho, just jump down here to, in our handy dandy Ranger Handbook, the team leader's roles and responsibilities. Actually, before we do that, let's jump in and talk about organizational structure. So let me get my brush, and again, I'm not going to get real in depth on this. This could change depending on what type of unity you're in. I'm not going to get into weapon squads, weapon platoons, anything like that. This is just like super generic, easy to understand, surface level, never been in the military, 12 dudes don't know each other, explanation of the organizational structure. So you are an individual rifleman. That's you. Let's make you yellow. You're just a big old ray of sunshine. You are the individual rifleman. Bam. Alright. You are going to be a part of a fire team. Probably going to have 3 other dudes. And then your team leader is going to be light blue. This is you and your fire team. Right here. Let's label this fire team. Smaller because this is about to get real big. right? And so, as a fire team, you will be a part of a squad, and a squad, whoops, wrong tool, a squad composed of 2 fire teams going to take you out of the other fire team because you're only going to be in one fire team. Bam. And we'll make the squad leader green. Alright, this is your squad. So in a fire team, you're going to have a alpha team. Colors here. You're going to have an alpha team. And then you're also going to have a bravo team. Left to right, no particular order, but just that there is a alpha and a bravo team within a squad. Right? And put a box around this and label this squad. So that's squad, right? Squad is comprised of 2 fire teams. Now your squad is going to be a part of a platoon. And your headset's going to die on you for fun just to make making the video that much more frustrating. Already working with pain. So, your squad's going to be part of a platoon. Platoon is comprised of 3 to 4 squads. Milsim West, a lot of times you'll see 3. This is where I was talking about like a weapons squad or something like that. Anyways, but we're just going to roll with this. Just work with me. So, your platoon is 4 squads, right? And each squad comprised of 2 teams, therefore 8 fire teams. And so, within the squad, we call teams Alpha Team and Bravo Team. But the squads are generally numeric. So you have first squad, you'll have second squad, you'll have third squad, you'll have fourth squad. If you're a super platoon, maybe fifth squad, so on and so forth. The organization can continue to grow, but generally, this is roughly what you'll see. All right, so let's highlight all that, and let's label this a platoon. Right? And so, unlike the fire team and the squad, so within a fire team, you have one leader, right? Alpha team has a leader, Bravo team has a leader. Within each squad, you have one squad leader. The platoon level leadership is a little different because you're going to actually have 2 leaders. And we'll make these guys 2 different colors. And I guess I need to go label all these leaders. We'll make a key. We'll make a legend here in a second. So you can pause the video at the end and kind of follow along what this is. So you've got 2 levels of leadership at the platoon, and responsibilities are divided. This video is not about platoon level leadership, so I'm not going to go into it in depth. But just know that you have your platoon sergeant and your platoon leader. In Milsim West for the BB Wars, your platoon sergeant will be actual cadre, right? So somebody who works for Milsim West. And your platoon leader will be a player leadership. So to differentiate between the two is a whole nother video in roles and responsibilities, but just understand that at the platoon level there is a lot going on from the leader's perspective, right? Because they're managing up and down. So and we'll talk about the next level of leadership here, but there's a lot of people in the platoon, and what you'll hear a lot, especially from platoon leadership, is talk to your squad leader. Right? And they say that because there's 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 44 dudes we've listed right here. And these guys can't manage talking to 44 dudes, answer the same question 44 times, right? That's why they ask for you to go to your squad leadership, because they can handle, if like 4 or 5 dudes from this squad all have the same question, then it funnels up once through the squad leader, right? And so it makes it easier to manage from a leadership perspective if you channel information through your team leader, and then from your team leader to your squad leader. So if you are the team leader, your responsibility is to get information from your team, and we'll go in depth about what that information might look like, from your team, communicate it to your squad leader, so your squad leader can communicate it up to the platoon, right? And if you are the squad leader, it's also your responsibility to ensure that your team leaders are getting that information and getting it to you, right? In terms of like ammo and resupply, if they haven't told you, you should be asking, right? Those are those kinds of responsibilities. So let's, I need to move this over a little bit. There we go. All right, so let's talk about the next level of leadership, which is where we're going to stop, which is the company. And I'm only going to go out to 3 because that's about as much as my screen is going to hold here. And put a box around you. And let's make you, actually, yes, let's make it pink because I'm sure the commander will love that. Rush. So this level of leadership is called the company level leadership. Again, there's much like the platoon, there's 2 levels of leadership. It's an officer and a non-commissioned officer. You as the individual rifleman will not really engage with these people. You really shouldn't. You should be using your chain of command because look at, we were talking 44 people here, so what, this is 132 people. You can't manage 132 people, right? These people, at the company level leadership, you just can't do it. So all the information from you needs to funnel to your team leader, to your squad leader, to your platoon leadership, to the company leadership. Probably, we try to solve problems at the lowest level possible. So if your team leader can solve the problem, then they're going to solve it. And if it needs to go to the squad, then they'll solve it. But so your platoons, much like the squads, are going to be numeric and not alphabetic. So you got first platoon, you got second platoon, and you got third platoon. So the way that we would, so if you're the individual rifleman, you're trying to figure out what is your organization, right? And let's, companies are, we're back to the alphabetic. I know, right? So, but if you had multiple companies, you would have, Alpha Company, Bravo Company, blah, blah, blah. So, if you're trying to figure out, all right, somebody asks you, hey, what is your unit or whatever, like you're rolling up and you're just trying to figure out where you're supposed to be, right? You would tell them that you're an Alpha Company. First, or let's pick a difference. Let's say that you are this guy right here. Oops. Let's say you're this guy. And you showed up to the event, you're trying to figure out where to be, and you'd be like, hey, all right, I'm an Alpha Company, second platoon, third squad, Alpha team. Okay. That's how this hierarchy would work, and that's kind of how you would describe this. People who aren't familiar with the vernacular, I've heard it, I've heard it said a lot of weird ways, but you start from the highest level and kind of work your way down, right? If there's only an Alpha Company, you could omit that information. Be like, hey, I'm a second platoon, third squad, and if you can find your squad, then your squad leader can get you in your fire team, right? But so you would be second platoon, third squad, Alpha team. I hope if you need to save this, pause video, look at it, get an understanding of what the organization looks like, and hopefully it will help you understand your role in the organization, and maybe why we do the things that we do with chain of command. So back to focusing on the team leader and the team leader's roles and responsibilities. So within your squad, you are in charge of the smallest group of people, right? That has a leader per se. And so your responsibilities are directly related to managing each individual troop, right? As a squad leader, I'm going to try to manage these 2 teams as a whole. And so I don't want to interact with all 12 people or 10, 12 people out there, right? I want to interact with the 2 team leaders. If I want accountability of make sure everybody's here, I'm going to go to the team leaders and say, hey, I need you tell me that you have all your people, and I need to trust that you have all your people. Or you can at least tell me who's missing, and hopefully where they are. So squad leader is only going to deal with the. It's not like I'm going to just like silo myself and I'm not going to talk to everybody else. But when it comes to accountability and stuff like that, we're gonna focus on the team leads. and then I'm going to relay that information up to the platoon. So I think we can jump into back to our handy dandy Ranger handbook and talk about the team leader's roles and responsibilities. You know, the gist of it is your job now is to manage your team effectively and communicate to your squad leader, right? So what does that mean to manage the team effectively? I'll tell you, I've had team leaders that were great players but made awful team leaders. I had a team leader once. He was my point man. We were walking around the woods of Tennessee, and then just all of a sudden, dudes just disappeared. I'm like, whoa. He heard a gunfight and he just ran for it and left his team and everybody else behind. And it's like, bro, what? No, that's not what you do as a team leader. Like that's what you might do as a great player once we decide your leadership decides to engage in the fight. But that's not what you do as a leader because your responsibility is to your team, right? So you are stepping back from the gameplay a little bit to make sure that your team is being effectively, is working together effectively, and it's not just about you anymore. Right, so just little quips from the Ranger Handbook. So, team leader controls the movement of the fire team and rate and placement of fires. Um, to do this, team leader leads from the front and uses proper command and signal. The team leader maintains accountability of Rangers' weapons, equipment, and ensures that Rangers maintain unit standards in all areas of knowledge. And make sure that their headset dies in the middle of their speech. I don't know why. I need to like put on music, I guess, to make it not do that. Anywho. So what does this mean? Right, controls the movement of the fire team and the rate and placement of fire. So movement of the fire team. We talked about this in the first video. All the different movement formations. Make sure your people are in the right formation, moving in the right direction, and that they've got their spacing. Spacing is probably the number one thing as a team leader that you're going to manage when it talks about movement. People are pretty good about getting in lines. People are pretty good about getting in the files. Yeah, wedges we struggle, and staggered columns or wedges we also struggle too. So maintaining spacing is one of probably the biggest things when we talk about maintaining movement. Getting people into that line once the contact starts. I talked about I think in episode was it 2 about people funneling and not staying in their lanes as they're approaching. I'm doing hand signals here, right? We talked about being in your lane, right? Keeping people in your lane. As you're going through this fight, you're not just worried about the enemy. If you're the team leader, right? Right. If you're the team leader, you're probably not the guy that's hello. Oh, brush. If you're the team leader, you're probably not the guy that's way out front. You may be in the back, and you're there. We go, Lord, right? Instead of being the guy who's actually up in front taking ground, you may be back here, and when the movement stalls, you may have to tell somebody, like, hey, you go there, right? You may be directing that, making sure people are online and making sure people stay in their lane and that they don't funnel, right? So what that requires, though, is you've got to be able to step back a little bit and view the battlefield, right? We like to focus on, I'm gonna get that guy, or these guys are shooting at me, but you got to kind of get a moment of mental clarity and step back and assess the battlefield and say, hey, I need to move people. And what that, sometimes for me, that's looked like I actually literally go grab a dude by the shoulder because sometimes it's hard to get people's attention. You're like, hey, you come with me, and then run them over somewhere else. If they need to be somewhere else. So that's kind of what that means. Controlling the movement, rate of fire and placement of fire. Yo, other than your machine gunners, like good luck with that at Milsim West. Um, but it's be cognizant of it, right? If you guys are in a big firefight and you guys are just like blasting through mags, there's not a whole lot of BBs at Milsim West, right? Your rifleman starts with 500, and if you hear him just like mag dump 200 rounds, you might be, hey, don't do that. But people are gonna do what they do at Milsim West, right? So good luck with that one. But really, this is a big piece. Is making sure that your team is moving appropriately, that they're watching their sectors, that they're staying in their lane, that they're in the movement formation that they need to be in, and that they are taking ground and bounding. And you may have to provide guidance along that. Team leader accountability, rangers, weapons, equipment. So this is BB Wars. The having accountability, weapons, equipment. Not really a big deal when it comes to Milsim West, other than to make sure that these guys are ready for the next fight, understanding that what weapon systems are up. If you've got a guy whose weapon system's down, so you're really only down to like 4 people who can actually participate in the fight, that's important to know and communicate to your squad leadership. Maintaining accountability of rangers. We're just gonna replace the word rangers with BB warriors. So it maintains accountability of your BB warriors. We're walking around in the woods a lot, and a lot of these places you can get lost. I've we've I've seen it, right? There's been people who just get lost, go the wrong way. It blows my mind because I do this stuff all the time and I don't get lost. But knock on wood, I'm gonna get lost. But it happens, man, and we need for safety purposes, if nothing else, you need to know that everybody's with you, right? Where you're walking through the woods, this guy got broken up from you in, the firefight, stepped in a hole, broke his calf, broke his shin bone, and then just nobody knows that he's just laying in the woods in pain because nobody's keeping accountability. So if for no other reason other than safety, we need accountability. Now, there's a couple ways that I like to do this with people that you don't know. Um, because maybe those people don't remember what you look like, can't find you, or whatever. What's worked for me, kind of developed through the squad leader games that I've played, is before we step off, everybody in the team or the squad gets a number. So if we're doing this by team, like right, your team leader, you're going to assign your people a number. They know that they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't have to remember your name. I don't have to remember your face, right? And so if I'm the team leader, I'm number 1. So when I think I've got everybody around, it's dark, I can't see, be like, hey, all right, you know, third squad alpha team, count off, I'm 1. Whoever was pre-designated 2 would say 2. Whoever's pre-designated 3 would say 3, then 4, and so they go in sequence. And so if 3's not there, I'm going to say, I'm 1. I hear 2. I hear somebody, and then I'm waiting for 3 to say 3. I don't hear 3, and I'm like, where's 3? Right? And this makes it easy because I don't need to know your name. I don't need to know your face, right? It's just all of a sudden, I'm missing 3. Who was 3, right? Well, let's go figure out who 3 was. And when's the last time anybody saw him, and we can go through that. But that's one way that I like to do accountability. We maintain accountability after every movement, right? So we move from point A to point B, get accountability, make sure everybody's there. We get accountability before we start a movement, right? Make sure everybody is there, ready to step off and go on a movement. So that way, and if somebody isn't coming, okay, but right? You have accountability because you know that they're not coming with you. Yeah, I've had people just rough time. They're like, yo, I can't make that. I can't make that movement. I'm too beat. I'm like, cool, stay here. But I needed to know that. So keeping accountability is important. Actually, this gets into this a little further down here. So, let's keep. Oh, nope, stop that. Quit scrolling down. I scrolled down too much. Go back up. Wow, this thing is slow. Anywho, all right, so the team leader leads by example, has specific duties and responsibilities during mission planning and execution. Yeah, you're not gonna have all this. Like this is BB words. You're gonna get like a general gist, and we're gonna kind of roll. But just because this is a lot for people who you talk about you. If you're a team leader in the military, you've done this for years, and you have an idea. This isn't your first day, but a lot of people who do these roles, this is maybe they've done this for several days, kind of deal. So, and a lot of this isn't nearly as formal as what you'd actually encounter. But you're basically, so let's just go through some of this. So through the warning order, your warning order is probably going to be given out by your squad leader. So platoon leader is going to brief the squad leader, and squad leader is going to come back and just grab the whole squad and say, here's our warning order, give a concept of the operation that we're going to go perform. So the team leader's responsibilities, your squad leader might brief you. I like to get my whole squad together. If it doesn't make sense to have the whole squad together to do a warning order, then I will go to my team leaders and say, hey, this is what we're about to do. Go tell your teams. So you may be tasked with that. In BB Wars, generally I just grab the whole squad and we have a powwow. Op order preparation. So this one's big. Ammunition and supply requests. Ammunition and supply, BBs and medic waters, right? If the medic is in your team, you've got to tell me when our medic needs medic waters. If your team is low on BBs, need to know that. So that and need to know that in enough time to then go request it from the platoon leadership. So keeping accountability, we go to a movement, we take contact, people shoot, get back. Really after the engagement, we should be getting accountability. But before once we're at a resupply point, should absolutely be that's no later than once we get back to a place where we could resupply, get the ammo and equipment request in. Uh, but through the whole engagement, you should be, there's a pause, be like, hey, how are you on ammo? How are you on ammo? Report that up. How are we on medic waters? Report that up so that we know. So the squad leader and platoon leadership knows, hey, I've got a platoon worth of guys that have one mag left. Maybe this isn't the time to get in a fight, right? And maybe I know that I have one team that has like very little ammo and another team that has a lot of ammo. So how I'm gonna parse that out, right? I can make decisions, but I have to have the information first. Distributes ammunition and special equipment. Yep. So when we do the ammo resupply, I'm gonna be like, here's this. Divvy this up to your team. And then each team is then gonna resupply. Performs all tasks given in the squad leader special instructions paragraph. Yeah, don't really worry about that too much for BB Wars. Operator issuance and rehearsals. I would love to have team leaders that understood all of this well enough to do rehearsals. I haven't yet. And that's because of the type of role that I volunteer for, right? I volunteer for all of the people who've never been to one, these and the headset. I don't know what's up with my headset. Anyway, but, just because of the type of squads that I volunteer to lead, right? There are tend to be the less experienced squads. So, but if you're a team leader and you want to try to lead rehearsals, like you've read all this, you've taken all this advice that I've put out here, and you're like, hey, I would like to lead a rehearsal on React to Contact. I'll sit back and mentor you on it, right? And that's part of leadership is mentoring other leaders to be able to develop those skills, right? So I'm all about people trying to step out of their shoes and learn something more. And I will absolutely work with you as a team leader. If you're my team leader and you want to do it, I'll work with you. We'll do it. So assist, blah, blah, blah. Exact actions necessary to facilitate movement. That's pretty self-explanatory. Enforces rear security. We talked about 360 security. As a team leader, as a squad leader, as any leader, it is your job to make sure you have 360-degree security, right? As the team leader, when we set up, where's my paint? When we set up, some kind of like static defense, right? You want to make sure that all of your people have, that or they're covering their sectors of fire so that we can establish 360 security. If you've got like all three of your people up here, and let's just say that there's like a big old tree or something that's blocking that, and we really actually don't have 360 security because your team is stacked on top of each other here, that's your responsibility to fix, right? Your squad leader should also fix it, but first it's your responsibility to fix it, and then when your squad leader comes by, they should fix it and go on and up. But again, we try to solve problems at the lowest level possible, instead of making the platoon leadership solve every little problem. So emplacement of people makes the squad leader and platoon leadership job so much easier, and we can focus on other things if you're managing your people individually, I think on that individual basis, and I can just manage you as the team. Actions on ORPs, right? So in a lot of this, you can read through it, but basically, you're the team leader. It's your responsibility to manage the individual BB warrior. To make sure that they're moving where they need to move, to make sure that they have the equipment that they need to have, to make sure that you're tracking their status, to keep accountability of where all your people are, and the strength of the force, and communicate all of that to your squad leadership so they can communicate that to the platoon leadership, and then those leaders can make good decisions about what the situation is and what actions they can take based on all of that information. So let's jump into this video is getting longer than I wanted to. Let's go back over some of this stuff and talk about team leaders' responsibilities in all of this, right? So, let's talk. Where's my hand and arm signals? Did I do a? I did. There we go. Hand and arm signals, right? We talked about team leader's responsibility to ensure movement, right? Team leader's responsibility to make sure that you have your team where they're supposed to be. So this is you, right? Brush, brush, and big brush. If this is you as a team leader, right? You know that you're Bravo team leader, so you're second in the order of march. Um, Go ahead and highlight these teams. It's your job, your responsibility to make sure that all of your people are here. They're not up here, right? They're not up here. They're here with you. You will be surprised how hard this becomes when we start walking around in the dark. This is your responsibility because we're going to be walking and somebody's going to throw back the file. And somehow your people are going to end up like a whole platoon over. It's like herding fiery kittens. It really is. But that's your responsibility. Make sure all your people are A, in the line, and B, with you, maintaining that team integrity. And making sure that they've got their distance between one another, 5 to 10 meters, depending on the situation. If it's really dark, they've got to close up, and so say we're walking through woods and it's pitch black. If your guy doesn't have nods, you need to know that, and you need to tell them that they need to be on the person in front of them, like arm's reach, because to people it's pitch black. People think like, oh well, I've got great night vision. You don't have great night vision if there's no ambient light, if there's no moon, and it's cloudy. You're not going to see anything, and you're not going to turn on a light while we're out in the field either. So you're just going to be lost, and that's not fun. So things like that, right? I can't describe every scenario, but these are things that I've dealt with that you're gonna have to communicate to people to make sure that they can stay with the team and come up with some way of keeping people together. The wedge is going to be at BB War something that's difficult to manage because, like I said, people kind of mess this up, and it's because you get out there, it's dark, nobody's met each other, they've never done it, and somebody's like, "Yo, get in a V shape." What does that mean? Means something different to everybody else. And so you as a team leader may have to go to each individual and be like, hey, you there, right? And then you're back here. Getting online, this is a surprising one because what you'll see is, right, here's enemy positions, and you'll see all of these guys. This is the funneling issue, right? You really won't have a hard time with people being left and right of each other. They kind of get that. But you're going to have to deal with the funneling issue and getting people to actually stay in their lanes. That's the hard part when you're managing a line, right? Just it's natural because people are looking at you, the leader, who is centrally located to determine like where are we going, what are we doing, and because they're looking at you, they funnel inwards. Even if there's not enemy contact, they're funneling inwards, and so keeping people spread out, stay in your lanes, go straight. You'd be surprised. Staggered column one, the biggest one about spacing. Hopefully seeing this from a topographical view in the previous episodes, it makes sense how this is supposed to work. And I think that's probably the biggest problem is people have never seen this from like a topographical view. But again, maintaining spacing, huge deal, right? Because I have seen it time and time again. A whole like platoon or several squads gets wiped by like a single grenade and one dude with a full auto burst. So during movement, spacing, and the movement formation, the most important things that the team leader needs to manage, that it's really going to help the squad leader's job, because we're marching, we're trying to be quiet. I don't want to yell at the dude way up there that's on his buddy's butt. saying, "Hey, you gotta back off. I'm back here in the middle of the formation." Team leaders got to manage that. Let's go to the next. So, team leaders' responsibilities from video 2. You guys remember all this? If you don't, go rewatch video 2 because I'm not redrawing all this. Right. So, team leaders, you got 2 different team leaders. We're gonna focus on team leader up here because the squad leader is gonna go with the maneuver element, and the squad leader is kind of gonna just take over during this movement. So team leader that is in contact, right? We talked about the 3Ds. Team leader's responsibility to announce, to make sure that the 3Ds got announced, right? If nobody else is announcing it, you need to announce it, right? Or at least prompt somebody who can see what's going on to announce their 3Ds, right? Their description, direction, distance, to enemy, 12 o'clock, 50 yards, something like that, right? And then make sure that they're gaining fire superiority. Airsofters, again, have a tendency to only shoot at targets that they can see and that they, you know, think that they can actually accurately engage. But when you're trying to gain fire superiority, shoot in a general direction, right? You want to keep their heads down. You're creating a base of fire and you're just suppressing the enemy and prompting them to continue shooting at a slow rate is the ideal scenario, right? Shoot where things might be. Shoot at the base of trees, right? Even if you don't see them, you start plinking a tree next to them, they're gonna get down, right? And that allows the maneuver element to actually maneuver. This team leader needs to basically manage their people with the squad leader as they're moving. The squad leader is going to be focused. The squad leader is going to be focused on the whole movement, the objective, and all of that. And it's helpful to have the team leader who can understand what's going on and also assist in that. The squad leader is kind of going to take over, but team leader needs to back him up and enforce those all those things, right? You're going to get through here, and again, back up your squad leader. If squad leader forgets to yell shift fire team leader, let's get it done, right? Somebody make sure, and then also make sure that it gets echoed. When I've done these in Milsim West and we're moving as a squad leader, I tend to get in like this area, and then I'm pushing people further out. So I tend to kind of stop here, and I'm pushing people like, hey, you got to keep going, you got to keep going, right? Keep going that way, because they'll stop here for whatever reason. So, if you find your squad leaders you gotta develop a synergy with the squad leader. If you find your squad leaders saying here, but like, hey, maybe tell your team leader, hey, push them further out. Like, I need you to go 50 yards, and they're gonna spread out between you and I, because again, we're managing people who've never done this before, and so being able to give bookends is a great way to lead these people. Like, you're 50 yards that way, I'm gonna be here. Once you get 50 yards, they're gonna spread out between us, and when we're gonna to assault, something like that is kind of how that plays out. And so you as the team leader, right, need to be that anchor point for your squad leader to be able to trust that you understand, go 50 yards that way, and then we're coming this way. So you got to understand the whole concept and help manage those people. So you get through shift fire, lift fire, you'll get here. Once you get to the LOA, this team leader is going to do the same thing. It's this team leader's responsibility to get up, move their people across safely, and establish this. And this is where the squad is going to take back over the 2 teams and start delegating. I'm going to be like, yo, hey, Alpha team, give me 1 person to do a search. I'm not going to pick your person. You pick your person. Send them out here to give me a search if we didn't pre-designate all of this, which we probably won't because BP wars, right? And so at this point, your squad leader is going to step back and start team leading again, right? Be like, hey, team leader, need this. Team leader, give me my lace reports. So lace report is probably good thing to cover at this point, because we talked about an engagement. So what I said earlier in this video was that at the end of any engagement, you're going to get it's going to be a lace report, account of your ammo and equipment. So LACE stands for liquid ammo, casualties, and equipment, right? So I want to know, does our team have water? Because water is going to be important to continuing the operations. What's our ammo status? And there's a whole like color thing, and I'm sure Brovets are gonna jump on here and be like, oh well, red, amber, yellow. No, I don't. Just if you can give me like, my guys are down to an average of like one mag or something like that. Just a general gist. I'm not gonna get picky about it. I just want some kind of like ammo report. Same thing with liquids. Like, if you're like, hey, we barely got any. Okay, that's good enough for me to deal with BB wars. I don't need like a whole coding system. So you can tell me about your liquids. You can tell me about your ammo casualties. You know, because of the medic rules, hopefully we get everybody back up with a tourniquet or water or something. But if we have casualties, um, and equipment, which equipment is pretty much just going to be everybody's battery still charged, and can we continue functioning? So at this point, team leaders again responsible for those LACE reports, liquids, ammo, casualty, and equipments to communicate to the squad leader. I think I touched on movement under fire a little bit, like kind of how this work ends up really playing out for the team leader managing your people. They're where you've got to step back from the situation, observe the battlefield, and make decisions and guide your team where they need to go. You just can't get funneled into the fight. If you are super focused on the fight, you're gonna lose track of the rest of your team, and you guys aren't gonna operate as effectively as you could. And I promise you, your team would rather win the fight with you back there hollering at them to do something than everybody's just kind of lost, run around like chickens with their head cut off, kittens on fire, and lose the fight. So, at least that's my experience. People tend to appreciate winning fights. So from video 3, we talked about patrol base operations as team leader. Again, a big thing, we try to solve problems on the lowest level possible, right? If you can solve the problem as a team leader, solve it. If you don't have, if you're not fully covering your sector of fire, move some people and fix it. Don't wait for your squad leader to do it. Just fix it. And make sure that your people are pulling guard. When it comes to night guard, I tend to to do it right, but really leave it up to the team leaders to determine what that roster is going to look like, right? And it's on the team leader to make sure that the people are up and doing it. Or, well, I mean, it's also the squad leader's responsibility and the platoon leader's responsibility, but it starts with the team leader because we try to solve problems on the lowest possible level. So when we're in doing patrol base operations, your responsibility to make sure that one of your people is pulling some kind of security, right? Or whatever, how many ever people is prescribed, but at least one, right? It's your responsibility to request the the resupplies, and then make sure that there's a for BB wars, the chow and rest plan. It's hard to manage because I've had people just sleep through whole on assaults, grenades coming in rooms, and you're just like, bro, are you really not going to get out of your sleeping bag? Okay, cool. So it's hard to manage that, and from a player perspective, there's the immersion piece of it, but ultimately everybody's a grown ass adult there, and what you gonna do? There's no Article 15s. So, but anywho, it's your job as a leader to ensure that people are doing what they're supposed to do, right? Make sure that you do want to make sure that people have eaten. If people haven't eaten, because a lot of times this can go pretty hard and fast, like make sure your people eat, make sure your people have water, right? That's on you as the leader to make sure that those things do happen. But other than that, that's pretty much it for this type of like patrol base operations. It's just making sure that everything that's supposed to be happening is happening. This has been a much longer video than anticipated. I'm pushing 45 minutes at this point, so I'm gonna stop here. I may push out another video for squad leader, or probably not platoon leadership, but may push out a video here for squad leader to cover those responsibilities. But I hope this is helpful to give a general idea of what your squad leader is going to expect from you as a team leader. It's not anything super crazy, but your job is to solve problems at a lower level, and the more you know and the more experience you have, the more problems you can solve at a lower level, and manage your team more effectively, so that the squad leader can manage the team from you, the team leader, as opposed to managing your people. It's a lot. It's a lot to try to manage 10 to 12 people individually, and it's really ineffective once the BBs start flying, as opposed to I can communicate with 2 people. It's so hard for me to deal with 10 to 12 people, and moving them, right, moving them through the woods. If I've got to orchestrate all 10 to 12 people, holy cow. So team leader role exists to solve the problems on a lower level. Um, but I think that's it. Um, if you have any questions, reach out to me, drop it in the comments of this video if you're not in one of my squads. But other than that, keep tuned for video 5, which I think is going to be a packing list and equipment. We'll see. May change that up, but that's kind of my intent right now.